Hello and welcome to the New Times. My name is Davis Hijiro. As we kickstart the commemoration week of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, we remember the beautiful souls, the sisters and brothers we lost, Rwanda's children that were massacred by the Interahamwe militia. To preserve their memories, Rwandans journal, Rwandans write, just to keep their memories. Though they are gone, they are still in our midst. In this spirit, we host Ivan Munyengango. He is a fitness entrepreneur, but he is also a survivor of the 1994 genocide. Join me in welcoming him. Hi, Ivan.
Hi.
Thank you for making time to be here.
Thank you too. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm all right.
You're well.
Yeah.
So in this period, this time as we Rwandans commemorate the genocide survivors, not survivors, but the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. We do this annually. We're doing this for the 29th time. Yeah.
Yes.
These times, what do they bring to your mind?
These times bring me a lot of memories, of course, that I live with up to this time. But also, it's they bring me the same thing they bring me every year, which is reliving. You kind of relive the 1994 April, May, June time, which wasn't the prettiest of my life, and but I suppose it's also the same story for many Rwandans.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of Rwandans, in fact, and but it's also a time to, as you relive those sad moments, it's a time to reflect on where you are at the journey of healing and rebuilding and becoming a person that is not stuck in the past, and even reassessing of on how those memories, whether they still have the same impact as the time passes, because it's important for us to keep remembering, but to not really hold on to the pain that sad moments like the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi can bring once you still have memories. So basically.
Yeah, it's an important fact or point for you to be, trying to move on, not to be held in the past. But the first time I heard of your story saying you were only 6 years old during the genocide. Yeah.
Yes, because I was born in July, so I would have turned 7 in July. So it was right before I turned 7. Yeah.
Okay. It was a pretty bad time to celebrate. I don't even celebrating.
Right now I have a 6-year-old, and I think she's turning on Monday next week. She's turning 6. So it's actually something I never think about so much until last night, when we're in the preparation of what we can do. Obviously, it's during the commemoration week, so we are limited to things we can do because we are remembering. But we still want to show her that she has a family and that we love her, that we celebrate her in the best way we can.
Yeah.
But I also took time to, last night I was thinking about, I was like, God damn it, like, this is actually how a 6-year-old looks like. And she's my kid. I know what she's capable of. I know she can't.
She's a beautiful girl.
She can't. Thank you. I know she can walk from where we live to MTN without her being held in the. She would always cry like, "Dad, I'm tired," or if we've never done that trip. But I think it goes down to how hard and how bad the situation is for somebody to be conditioned to do things.
Yeah.
And as a 6-7-year-old down that Byumba Road, going to Byumba, it was tough. But again, as a kid, you just don't even know how tough it is until later on when you want to do it with full conscience.
Yeah. You talked about the Byumba Road, and off record, you mentioned to me there is this trip. Ivan, he does a trip every year from Kigali to Gicumbi, right?
Yes.
So you mentioned to me you did the same trip from Kigali to Gicumbi during the 1994.
Correct.
So, I mean, bring us into this, this period. You were just 6 years old. I mean, how did you even manage to live in the survival mode of that time?
I mean, obviously, I wasn't alone, so there's no 6-year-old hanging around in the in the middle of machetes and bullets.
Yeah.
So the biggest credits, of course, go to my sister, who was also 1 year older than me, and a friend of my mom, where we were at that time. So I'm not sure if you know this because you look a bit younger.
I am young.
But Tutsi parents at that time, if they could sense threats, there were people coming to their door in the evening, knocking and asking questions and threatening to come in without by force or any kind of harassment of all kinds of sorts.
Yeah.
So what parents did was to make in that time of like January, February, March, even before like in 92, 93, was to form some sort of strategic friendships because there was a pattern. As you know, the genocide did not just happen in April 1994. It was planned and people saw how it was actually built all the way to when it exploded.
Yeah.
So people who were integrated in different communities, they made sure that they make friendships that can actually save them or save their children in case of the worst.
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up. We would go, I remember my mom would ask my sister to take us to, let's say, one of her friends, her church friend. Then we would stay a night and then we'd come back tomorrow morning and my bigger sister would go to school and life would continue during the day as if nothing happened. But God knows what they kind of endured the nights we did not sleep there. So my dad, the month of January, February, March, couple of months before the genocide, was not sleeping at our house. But we didn't know why. He would go around 5 p.m. and then come back tomorrow, get ready quick, and then he worked on construction sites.
So Mom would stay in the house alone because you were taken to your neighbors, to the family friends.
Yes.
Mom would stay alone.
Alone, by herself. Yeah. And so one of those nights was April the 7th or 5th or maybe 6th, because I don't remember if the airplane was shut down the night we slept there or if we had been there for a few days. So remember, this is a 6-year-old mind that is trying to remember things. But when the plane was shut down and it was total chaos, so people started coming into our yard. That is at my mom's friend.
Yeah.
Where she had put us.
That church friend.
Yes. And it was in the proximity of Gatsata and those ends. That's why Byumba was the right path to, So Ingotanyi were in Murindi, and then that was the route that connected Murindi to Kigali. In fact, the 600 soldiers that were in the CND came through that road.
Used that route.
So, and then many people went to cheer on them, although it is known that they were being added on the list of people who will get trouble later on because they went to cheer on Ingotanyi as they arrived. So that road, we used it mainly because it was close to where we were living. So then we took it. That woman, who is still a strong woman up to this time.
She's still alive?
Yeah. She's alive.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So in the mountains, Mount Kigali and what's the mountain in Gatsata? Mount Jali?
Yeah, I think it's Jali. I'm not
I don't know. On the top of the mountain, started coming some Inhotanyi fellas, and asked us to pack our stuff, but only the most important thing. And as a kid, I was so excited to start primary school, that fall. And then I remember I had a bag. I had some ready to for school kind of gear, and I remember packing this little bag, excited to go because I couldn't leave it. It was a new bag.
Yeah.
Then they were like, "No,
Not taking
this will slow you down. You have to take only the necessary." So I remember my sister putting me in double clothes of everything, like 2 pants, 2 shirts, so we can go. What I couldn't carry, I carried it on myself. Then we took the road, and it wasn't very smooth, because daytime we kind of went into trenches, and then in the evening we would walk. Then there is this funny story I remember on that road of a guy who the military guys said that there is no light. If you have a torch, tell us. If you have anything that can actually produce light, because it's dangerous. If you do it, then you're going to reveal the positions of everybody. So we're there. We're a bunch of refugees. We're like hundreds, maybe 40. No, not hundreds, really. A couple of families. But we are with the Inhotanyi soldiers escorting us to the areas that they had already rescued.
Yeah.
Then this guy lights a cigarette. They would give us a break, like, I don't know, an hour or 40 minutes of a break. People would put their stuff down.
You rest, you
rest,
a little bit.
And then people would, do I remember people cooking? I think there was an arranged way to cook without a lot of flame, or maybe it was charcoal.
Yeah.
But I remember, because my sister was carrying a big pot, hot, of beans. And that were cooked, I think, in 3 takes, in 3 nights.
As in, you stop,
you cook, you stop, you cook, you stop, you cook. Yeah. Because there is no way you could sit and wait for the whole beans to be well cooked. Yeah, there was not enough time. But anyways, coming back to this guy, he lights a cigarette, he goes on by the tree, and then he pulls, and then you see when you inhale, it kind of lights more.
Yeah.
And then that, when it's in pitch black, that's like a torch in itself. The light it's always amplified. And there was a lot of fire on the guy coming from the top of the hill. So they could probably hear people moving, but they couldn't see them. And then therefore, maybe they didn't want to waste bullets. But we quickly saw a test of what the reason why the Inhotanyi was telling us
stopping you to use lights.
To use lights. It kind of automatically reveals where you are. So I remember this guy getting in trouble.
Did they come after you? Did they come after you or something like?
I'm not sure what happened to the guy, whether he died on the spot, but he was shot. I remember he was shot. He took a hit, and then we went, got into Hilux looking vehicle that was passing, no lights still. Another sad story was a woman in that Hilux that fell off the truck, hit the kid's head on tarmac. Then we continued. A couple of days later, we buried the kid, obviously. It was a small baby. I don't know, maybe as a 6-year-old I thought, okay, the kid will make it, or the kid will wake up, because the kid kept asleep on the back of that woman's head, back. But the kid was dead. Yeah, she didn't make it.
Bad.
And then so we continued day and night, a couple of days, and then I don't remember really in terms of numbers. That's what I was telling you, that if it's a story or my testimony, it's not. It doesn't fall well on the timeline because I don't have dates and hours, and you see people
That's okay.
10 years older than me, people who were like 25.
Yeah, that's fine.
They tell you on the morning of July, on a Monday, this date, around 8 p.m. something happened. But my stories are always small flashes of memories that I kind of stitch together and add other people.
Of course, like how what your sister tells you, the one you
Exactly.
were with. And,
yeah. And then I come up with stories like this. So yeah, we went into temporary camp. It was a school, I remember. And then later on, they handed us to the UNHCR, a refugee camp, a legit refugee camp around the Byumba township. I don't know what it's called. Gichumbi. That's it.
Gichumbi. Yeah.
Gichumbi. And then I stayed there. So when I remember me and my sister was on and off, but I also lost track of this woman who was looking after us. She had kids of her own, and but we later on found each other again in the camp. My sister, there's also a time where we separated in the camp, but then we also reconnected again. And then as we were doing our refugee life in Byumba, I think the war ended and there were UNHCR trucks bringing people to Kigali. So we hopped on that truck and came. They offloaded us in Nyabugogo. It was a mess. It was glasses everywhere, houses with bullet holes, and yeah. So from there we made it. I think we walked to Kicukiro where we originally lived, and then to find empty, half built because it was taken down house. What used to be our home, and fast forward we had to do life.
Yeah. So you as immediately after the plane of the president was shot down, you were immediately taken to Byumba. Like that night, you were immediately transferred to Byumba in the refugee camp.
I don't remember whether it was actually that night or if we did a couple of nights inside the house. In fact, we must have, because I remember being instructed to sleep in the corridor with mattresses on the walls because bullets wouldn't come through mattresses. We must have left Kigali a bit later. Yeah.
So where are your parents in all this? You were now being taking care of your sister and this woman who was helping you, your family friend who was helping. Where are your parents in this?
Before I also go to that, I have to mention that we are also four. As I talk about my sister, there's another sister with my other brother who also took another path. It's they have their own story that they went towards Nyanza, and I think it was so my mom took her own way, my dad took her own way, my sister with her. So the bigger sister, we are four. We have two big sisters, and then us, the boys. So my bigger sister took my younger brother, and then us in the middle also went together. So then we reconnected. I don't remember which month, but it was in April. It was in '94, if I remember well. So we have an uncle who came from Burundi to just see if there is anyone left of his family. He's my mom's brother. And then he found us. He found us, and I don't know if he found us in the same times, or if he found some and then waited for others to surface, if I can say like that.
Yeah.
But quickly, he had to, I think, maybe gather like my parents' cousins maybe, and other grown-ups that were left in our family to sort of sit and then think about what happens of us, like who takes who. And now that we have these 4 orphans that need shelters and life and new hope, and that's what happened.
Ivan, what was the hardest time you can remember during the genocide? This time you really think was your hardest part of the genocide?
As a young kid, not only you don't store memories, you don't recollect information the same way an adult is collecting them and processing them, and then so they can be felt with full magnitude. But you don't also always have what you lack that is very important is a reference. It's like, what's a good life, what's a bad life? Because like I'm saying, for example, I don't know how long it's been in tough time, because from the separation with my parents to when I came back, it was really bad, like as a life. But then because you don't have a reference of what else is good, it's like I don't remember what it used to be, just being at home in the evening, let's say with parents, and then therefore you are enjoying life as it is. So when you see kids running around, when you see bullets coming, you feel like it's a semi-reality, and then you later get to know that this is the harshest times of this country in the history of humanity, and you were part of it, and then you're like, yeah, it was bad. But then it's not bad as you're living it, because you see other kids living it, and you see people. Obviously, there are things that you don't wish to, because I remember having blisters on my feet and having, I don't know how it's called, unfortunately, rashes on my skin because of not having a shower, just being a dirty kid in a refugee camp.
Yeah.
Or hunger, or that's tough.
That's really tough.
So, but if I can remember now using the present references, I think that the hardest time wasn't during the genocide. It was actually after.
Okay.
It was after, when you are trying to make sense of things, and just being a 70-year-old without anybody.
Yeah, that's really tough.
Yeah, kids have their friends. It's important to have a community around you. It's but the post genocide times, like 97, 98. Yeah, being this kid that's
what was life like?
Traumatized and doesn't have trust. That's being passed on family to family, because I remember it wasn't just smooth like that.
Yeah.
What do you remember? Tough.
What do you remember, if at least you were, if you have the memories now, what was life like? Were you, a person would really, really want to know, We now see Rwanda like this, but people tell you this is a new Rwanda,
Yeah.
A new Rwanda. But then, what was the life like, personally? What is your personal story?
My post-genocide life?
Yeah.
It was obviously, like right now I can tell a story that is like, again, when things are bad and they are happening in real life and in real time, and you are young, you feel there's something that almost tells you that it's happening to everybody. You have no sense of what is overseas, that there are other countries that are actually safe. It's like, like right now we are watching Ukraine on TV, but there is a person that can give an interview on TV today, and that person will probably be bombed tonight, and then he will not be alive tomorrow. So it's a story when you are inside that chaos. It's not easy to understand how bad it is fully. until you, of course, gain peace, go to school, educate yourself, now from an outside perspective.
Yeah.
Then there are also literature on the matter. You get to get different stories, different angles, different perspectives. And then you put now a clear image of what you were actually going through. Then there is you post the genocide. Then there's the PTSD. There's the mental health.
Yeah.
Then there is family. There is that structure, a mom and a husband and children in a house that is now ripped apart. We, of course, were put into families, but I love every family I've ever lived into, but there's no family like your own. I can always take my family as a whole anytime, because it's the best family you can think of. So the post-genocide time, most of it was just, I was a mess, I feel. These young, very skinny, big eyes, bones showing, scared to death kind of kid. Lonely most of the time, in the corners, not engaging. Yeah. So I think the thing I was afraid the most was separation.
Yeah.
It's like the genocide ended, now we are peacetime, but I just don't trust grown-ups around me. I feel like all that can be taken away again at any time.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of that fear and that trauma is still in me, but what I know is that I'm not whole.
Yeah. Part of you has been taken.
Definitely, yeah.
Man, I really understand, and it's. I think you're even doing better. I think you're even, by looking from what I see, I think you're better than the person from 28, 29 years ago. But then, can you now take us through your journey of healing? How at least from that time till now, what has been going on? What have you been doing to move on? To be a better you, because I know you've been fighting, you've been trying, as we said earlier, not to be, withheld by your past, What has your healing journey been like?
I think it's in phases. There's the part that is still under construction, which is my head. Like, how can I actually tune myself to perform and think and be present and move on and project and my head.
Yeah.
I want to be able to think like others, like to dream like I don't have a past, like to not have a big anchor attached to my feet that is anchored in the past. Then there is also a part of me that has, now that I grew up, so I have a couple of views, and I feel like if you ask my friends right now, they would say that I'm in some sort of premature existential crisis because of the question I asked myself. And
what's the question you asked yourself?
Things like life in general. Like, are we here? Is it real? Are we supposed to be doing what we are doing? Is there any life after life? Is there, all these existential questions? But I think I have what you can call as a baseline of happiness that everybody has, because we have a good country. It promises a lot compared to our neighbors and some African countries. If you are African, Rwanda is the place to be in. We've seen tremendous growth in all aspects of life. So as a person who has gone to the very bottom, it's interesting to have things that you can call as to grip on.
Yeah.
So you can always keep climbing. And this country offers that more than any country I've ever lived in. And it's to be able to now like feel like I want to develop, I want to heal, I want to do all that in the same country that I owe a lot to. It's just a blessing, I would say. So my journey towards healing I received an education, I lived a very blissful life of a young, stupid me, 14, 15, a complicated teenager, going through life just as it appeared then.
Yeah.
To a point where probably at 17 I kind of took my life in my own hands because I started paying rent very, very early.
Yeah.
And I think that also shaped my now life of being an entrepreneur. It comes from a very early age of wanting to find solutions for your problems.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, time is just not on our side, but I think you have a lot to share. I mean, your post genocide life, I mean, it's very, very interesting because you went through very, very many different phases to rebuild yourself without, parents to guide you, parents to give you the guidance, to tell you, hey, be strong, you got this, you will be better, You going through life alone, though you had your family, your siblings, it's not the same as having your parents around. I really understand you. Ivan, what message can you have? I mean, you're now grown, you have what it was, where the country has come from, what the survivors have been through. Yeah, you've had stories, and although you were only 6 years old, I know you can relate more than a person who wasn't at in that period. Yeah, but what message do you have for the survivors who are in Rwanda, out of Rwanda, but who are trying to move on from from experience with life?
I mean, obviously, there can be a message of encouragement in all sorts of ways. Like it's like wake up and put on shoes, brush teeth, and go work, because it is consistency over a long period of time that healing and development and progress happens. And it's important to move on, not moving on in how can I say it? To move on in the sense that we are here, this is 2023, 1994, genocide against the Tutsi happened, it's there, and we draw things from it, lessons. That's why the country is determined to never have things that separate Rwandans the way we were separated, so that we don't end up killing each other again, or at least we don't have another civil war.
Yeah.
But at the individual level, it's also important to know that as you relive the stories of the past, that they don't have the same impact as it had in 98, in 99, and basically, yeah. So it's like it's like some sort of cognitive behavior therapy, where you have memories, you remember things, but they are no longer affecting you the way they used to affect you. So it's important to remember. We have museums for that, to refresh our memory, those who lived it, but also to educate people outside this story about what happened. So people who really lived it, my message is that it's important to always assess yourself and know where you're standing in terms of reconstruction, especially mental reconstruction. Yeah, whether you are actually healed and you're not held back by the memories of the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ivan, allow me to thank you very much for making time to be here.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you heard it, that's a story of Ivan Munyengango. He was only 6 years old when a genocide struck out. You know, he has memories, a few memories, but most of the stories he's sharing are of his siblings, his sisters, and of course you can hear how hard it was. And the most interesting part was how was his post-genocide life. You know, he had to struggle, he had to work very hard to be the man he is today. I personally, I think he is doing very, very well. I don't know what he thinks about my opinion, but yeah, I think this is one of the ways this is one of the reasons we do make such stories, you know, to keep the memories of what happened during the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. So allow me to thank you for tuning into the New Times. My name is Davis Hijiro. Let's continue to remember, unite, and renew. Till next time, bye for now.